The village lay quiet beneath the gray sky, its rooftops sagging and streets empty except for the wind whispering through broken windows. For years, the villagers had lived in fear, remembering stories of the human who had caused the collapse of mankind. He had been a man of intelligence, ambition, and cruelty, a figure whose experiments had turned cities to rubble, whose inventions had made war and famine inescapable. Now, they said he was gone, dead, and the village finally dared to hope. When news arrived that he had perished in his hidden laboratory far to the north, a wave of relief and disbelief swept through the village. The villagers gathered in the central square, their hearts light with the thought that the era of human suffering had ended. Children ran through the narrow streets, their laughter echoing off the stone walls. The elders stood in the shadows, speaking quietly about survival and endurance, about how they had waited for this moment for decades. As the sun fell low in the sky, painting the world with orange and red, drums were brought out and fires were lit along the square. The village had not celebrated in years. This night they danced on the grave of the man who had brought so much suffering to the world. Every movement of their bodies felt like a release, a reclaiming of life that had been stolen from them. Women and men, young and old, formed circles, clapping in rhythm with the drums. The sound filled the valley, carrying over the hills, announcing to the world that the village had survived. Children waved flags made from scraps of cloth, their tiny voices joining the chorus of triumph. Even the animals seemed to sense the change, dogs barking happily and birds chirping as if celebrating with their human companions. The elders told stories of courage and cleverness, of how they had hidden when cities burned, how they had scavenged food and water when machines ruled the land. The villagers nodded in agreement, sharing memories of hardship and survival. It was a night of joy, a night of remembrance, and a night of liberation. But as darkness settled and shadows grew long, a sound cut through the celebration. At first it was faint, almost a whisper carried by the wind. Then it grew louder, a cold, deliberate laugh, low and unnatural. The drums faltered. The dancers froze mid-step. Children clutched at their parents, and even the elders straightened, scanning the edges of the village. The laughter came again, closer this time, echoing between the broken buildings. It was not the sound of joy. It was something deliberate, mocking and impossible to ignore. A hush fell over the square. The villagers, who had just celebrated freedom and survival, now felt the grip of fear tighten around them. From the darkness at the edge of the forest, a figure emerged. At first it was difficult to see details. The moonlight revealed a tall form moving with confidence, yet its gait was strange, almost mechanical. The villagers whispered among themselves, some speculating that it might be a remnant of the old experiments, a human left alive with unnatural powers. Others thought it was simply a stranger, a traveler who had lost his way. The figure's head turned slowly toward the square, and the laugh came again, low and chilling, sending shivers down the spines of everyone present. Hearts pounded, and even the bravest villagers stepped back. No one moved forward. The celebration, once vibrant and alive, had dissolved into a tense, fearful silence. An elder, her face lined with years of worry and wisdom, took a careful step forward. "Who are you?" she called, her voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "Why are you here?" The figure did not answer immediately. It paused, letting the villagers watch, letting the tension build. The silence was heavy, broken only by the distant crackle of the fires in the square. Then finally, a voice came. It was deep, calm, and measured, carrying with it an authority that made the villagers instinctively quiet. "You think you have seen the end," the figure said. "You think the story of mankind has closed. But life adapts." Confusion spread like wildfire. The villagers glanced at one another. Could it be? The man was gone. They had danced on his grave. How could there still be danger, still be someone, or something, that threatened them? The figure stepped closer, and as the moonlight touched its face, the villagers noticed something unusual. It was human in shape, yet there was something unfamiliar, almost beyond human in its presence. Its eyes glimmered with intelligence and experience, and its posture was calm, composed, and commanding. There was no aggression, yet the villagers could not help but feel the weight of its gaze. One of the younger villagers, a boy not yet 10 years old, whispered to his mother, "Is it him? Is it the one we buried?" The mother pulled him close, shaking her head. "No, my son. He is gone. This is something different." The figure stopped at the edge of the square, its gaze sweeping over the gathered villagers. "I have watched your kind for many years," it said. "I have seen what humans can do, how they can destroy and create, how they can rise and fall. Your world may seem broken, but the spark remains." An older man stepped forward, his hands trembling slightly. "Why are you here?" he asked. "Are you here to punish us, to continue the cycle of suffering?" The figure shook its head slowly. "No, I am not your enemy. I am here to see what remains of humanity in this village, to see if you can rise beyond fear, beyond the mistakes of the past. If you fail, the dance you celebrated tonight will mark the true end of mankind. If you succeed, perhaps a new chapter can begin." The villagers looked at one another, uncertainty and curiosity mixing with lingering fear. Could they trust this being? Could it be their chance to rebuild, or was it another test, another trial to survive? The boy looked up at the elder, his wide eyes filled with wonder and fear. "Can humans really start over?" he asked. The elder took a deep breath, thinking of all the years of struggle, the loss, the resilience. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "perhaps we can. But it will take courage, wisdom, and unity. We must remember who we are and what we have survived." The figure's gaze softened, as if acknowledging the elder's words. It turned, glancing toward the forest. "Your time to decide begins now," it said. "The past is behind you, the present is in your hands, and the future depends on what you choose tonight." As it stepped back into the darkness, the village was left trembling, unsure but alive with the possibility of hope. The fires burned on, casting flickering light across faces filled with determination. The dance on the grave had ended, but a greater challenge had begun, a challenge that would test the courage, ingenuity, and spirit of humanity in ways they had never imagined. That night, as the villagers huddled together under the stars, they whispered plans and hopes. For the first time in decades, the cold grip of fear was balanced by the warm glow of possibility. They did not know what tomorrow would bring, but they knew one thing. They would face it together, and in that unity, the spark of humanity had a chance to shine once more. The morning sun rose slowly over the village, casting a pale gold light on rooftops and cobblestone streets. The celebrations of the previous night had ended, but the villagers were restless. The cold laugh and the strange figure that had appeared on the outskirts of the village lingered in their minds. Whispers filled every corner. Who was it? What did it want? And most importantly, could humanity survive beyond what they had endured? The elder gathered the villagers in the central square once more. Her face, lined with years of wisdom, was calm but serious. "Last night," she began, "we celebrated the end of what we feared most. But a new challenge has come. We are given a choice, not of survival alone, but of who we will be from this moment forward. Will we rise, or will we let fear rule us?" The villagers listened, uncertainty still gripping their hearts. Children clung to their parents, and even the strongest men and women felt the weight of responsibility pressing upon them. The elder continued, "We have survived before against impossible odds, and if we work together, we can rebuild. But we must be united, courageous, and wise." Some villagers looked skeptical. The world beyond their valley was filled with ruins, remnants of a civilization that had once spread across the globe. Machines and inventions had caused destruction on a scale they could hardly imagine. To rebuild seemed impossible. Yet the words of the figure, the one who had appeared at the edge of the forest, lingered in their minds. "Life adapts," it had said. "The spark remains." The villagers spent the morning examining the edges of their homes and the surrounding fields. They worked to repair fences, clear debris, and organize supplies. For the first time in years, there was a sense of purpose. Even small tasks felt monumental because they represented hope, a step toward reclaiming a future they had almost lost. A group of young men and women gathered near the old watchtower. "We need to explore beyond the forest," one of them said. "If this figure is right, there is knowledge and technology still out there that can help us rebuild. We cannot wait forever." The elder, standing nearby, nodded slowly. "You are right," she said. "But we must be careful. The world is dangerous. You will need strategy, courage, and teamwork. Do not act on impulse. Remember what you have survived and let it guide you." As the villagers prepared to venture beyond the valley, a feeling of unity began to form. For years, fear had kept them divided. Families had hoarded resources, mistrust had spread like wildfire, and the memory of human cruelty had created walls between neighbors. But now, facing an uncertain future together, they began to see each other not just as survivors but as partners in a shared mission. The journey was not easy. The forest surrounding the village was thick and dark, filled with twisted trees and hidden paths. Some areas were covered in fog that clung to the ground like a living thing. The villagers moved cautiously, following tracks and signs left by the world before. Occasionally, they would come across remnants of cities, collapsed buildings, rusted vehicles, and machines frozen in time. Each discovery was a reminder of both human ingenuity and human folly. One afternoon, they stumbled upon a ruined library, its walls crumbling but shelves still holding books. The villagers had almost forgotten what these objects were. They had not seen books in years, and the knowledge contained in them was a treasure beyond measure. Children ran from shelf to shelf, pointing at pictures and reading aloud what they could understand. The elders carefully gathered the books, knowing that this knowledge could help them rebuild. As they explored further, signs of the figure appeared. Strange symbols were etched on rocks and trees, guiding the villagers toward a hidden path. The figure had left clues, a trail for them to follow, but also a test. Each step forward required problem-solving, teamwork, and careful observation. The villagers began to realize that this journey was not just about survival. It was about proving that humanity could rise above its past mistakes. Days passed, and the villagers grew stronger. Their bodies adjusted to the demands of the journey, and their minds sharpened with every challenge. They crossed rivers, climbed hills, and navigated forests that seemed endless. The bond between them strengthened. They shared food, helped each other through difficult paths, and made decisions together. They were learning the true meaning of unity, of a civilization built not on fear and domination, but on cooperation and courage. One evening, as they camped near a cliff overlooking a vast valley, the figure appeared again. This time it stepped into the light of their fire. The villagers froze, unsure whether to be afraid or relieved. The figure smiled, a small gesture that carried both wisdom and challenge. "You have come far," it said, "but the greatest challenge is ahead. You must decide not only how to survive, but how to lead, how to build, and how to protect the spark of humanity that remains. The world will not be easy. It will test you at every step. But if you succeed, mankind will not just survive, it will thrive." The elder stepped forward. "We are ready," she said. "We have learned to trust one another, to work together, and to face what we do not understand. We will not fail." The figure nodded. "Good, remember this. The past is a guide, not a chain. Use what you have learned and move forward without fear. Your choices will shape the world to come." The villagers watched as the figure disappeared into the shadows, leaving them alone with the valley and the promise of the future. For the first time, they felt the weight of possibility rather than the weight of fear. They understood that the journey would not end here, that rebuilding would require effort, wisdom, and patience. But they were no longer bound by despair. In the days that followed, the villagers began to construct new shelters, organize food stores, and explore the surrounding lands for resources. They used their knowledge of the past, combined with the lessons learned from survival, to create systems of cooperation and planning. Decisions were made collectively, and disagreements were resolved through discussion rather than fear. Slowly, the village transformed. Children learned from elders, gaining skills in navigation, farming, and understanding the old technology that remained. Adults shared knowledge of survival tactics, strategies for defending against potential threats, and ways to work together efficiently. Every action reinforced the idea that humanity could thrive again, not through domination but through wisdom, courage, and unity. Months passed, and the village began to grow. They planted fields, built new homes, and created structures that were strong, safe, and sustainable. Traders and travelers from distant places arrived, drawn by the stories of a community that had risen from the ruins. The villagers welcomed them, sharing resources and knowledge. Together they formed networks of cooperation that extended beyond the valley. One evening, as the sun set over the horizon, the villagers gathered in the central square once more. This time, it was not a celebration of the death of a tyrant, but a celebration of life, resilience, and hope. Fires burned brightly, children played freely, and adults shared stories of courage and ingenuity. Though the cold laugh of the past lingered in memory, it no longer held power over them. Humanity had faced the edge of destruction and emerged not only alive but stronger, wiser, and united. The spark had survived, and in every heart a sense of purpose burned brightly. The elder looked around the square, her eyes meeting those of every villager. "We have learned," she said softly, "that the end of one life does not define us. It is our choices, our courage, and our unity that shape the future. We will carry this knowledge forward, and humanity will rise again." As the night fell, stars shimmered above the village, each one a reminder of the vast possibilities that lay ahead. The villagers understood that challenges would come, that the world was still dangerous, and that their journey was far from complete. But together they were no longer victims of the past. They were the architects of a new future, a future where humanity could shine, adapt, and thrive against all odds. And in that quiet night, filled with laughter, song, and hope, the village knew that the spark of mankind would never be extinguished again.